Golfing fans, welcome to this evening's Golfin Facebook Live special. In tonight's broadcast we're going to be talking about custom fit. Now custom fit is more popular than ever, so this evening we are going to strip custom fit right back to the basics so we can get a solid understanding of what it is, what the benefits are, when we should have a custom fit and lots more. If I've never met you before, I'm Golfin resident coach Sam Carr and I create coaching content for golfing and of course work with golfing clients around the globe to deliver high quality bespoke golfing coaching. To begin with, I have a slight confession to you all. This evening we're going semi-live. So I'm live now and will be throughout answering questions, but the recording we have with our special guest Rhys Atkinson from Eclipse Golf was actually done earlier on today. But don't panic, don't worry golfing fans. As always, feel free to comment in the box with any questions for myself or Rhys. While the interview isn't live, if you have any questions, ask away and we will of course get back to you with an answer. Rhys also has a special gift for you all. Quite simply, everyone who likes the broadcast, whether it's the live or the rebroadcast, we will send you a special PDF that Rhys has put together for you. So thank you, Rhys, for that. Right, if you're watching live or even watching the rebroadcast, make sure you hit the like button and tag a friend so they can watch as well. I know you'll each know at least one person who wants or maybe needs to watch this show so they can learn a bit more about custom fit and what it has to offer. And if you can, hit my personal favourite, the wow face. I do love that wow face. Before I introduce Rhys and to get the ball rolling, again, whether you're watching live or even the rebroadcast, let us know where in the world you are watching from by commenting in the box. So, to our special guest, Rhys Atkinson. Where do you start? Rhys is a specialist in golf club fitting, building, club performance alterations and repairs. He's the founder of Eclipse Golf, a PGA Professional, and has over 25 years experience in the field. He set up Eclipse Golf to provide tour-inspired custom fitting services to players of all ability levels, and having worked on the European Tour, Rhys has helped over 100 of the world's finest players, including Henrik Stenson, Bjorn, Willet, Pieters, Noren, and many more. He's also worked with thousands of club golfers from complete beginners to elite amateurs. That is quite a CV, and we are over the moon to bring him to you all this evening. So without further ado, let's jump straight into the interview. I will see you after. Get liking the broadcast, tagging your friends, ask questions, and enjoy golfers. So here we are, golfers. We are in the interview, and I'm pleased to bring in, as you can see on the side, that side of the screen there, Rhys Atkinson. Rhys, thank you for joining us on this evening. I hope you're well.
I'm very well. Thank you very much for inviting me, Sam. It's a pleasure to be here.
No, well, thank you for coming on board. I don't know if you probably didn't hear, but during the introduction, I just gave a brief overview of some of the bits that you sent me with regard to what you do, where you do it, some of the tour players you've worked with, which is fantastic. And any other bit of insight you want to share with the audience? Any bit of background, where it all started? How did you get into club fitting, that sort of thing?
Crikey, yeah. I think I won't drone on too much. I'm not sure what you've kind of put out in front, but yeah. Look, I started off like many golf pros, wanting to be really good at the game. Opportunities opened up. I got approached by Callaway at the time. Went to work for Callaway, worked my way up through the company, and it was very much equipment technicalities. It was setting up custom fitting centres across, Europe, Middle East, and Africa. Okay. It was doing product management, and it was working with both the best golfers in the world, so on tour, and it was also working with possibly the worst golfers in the world. Is that it was a really broad spectrum, and also worked with a lot of retailers and other pros who were trying to deliver that custom fit service as well. So really, yeah, 25 years I've been working in the equipment side of things. I've been very fortunate to have worked with some brilliant minds, scientists on equipment design, how it works, how you can make it so it actually helps a player. So yeah, I mean, that's said that bit already, really. So and then from a tour perspective, it always sounds great to name drop, doesn't it? But what I got from working on the tour was actually, when you're working with that level of player, your style of fitting actually changes quite a bit. As in, you're relying on them a lot more because you're not there to tell them. Actually, they're there to tell you, and that you are there to then interpret what they're saying and figure out actually what they're saying, because what they say sometimes actually isn't the way they will say it needs to be interpreted into something that becomes a shaft or a certain head or a certain length or a certain specification that helps them.
And that's a serious skill set. But how did you get into custom fit, just out of interest? Is something that's always been a passion of yours, or was it something that you kind of were exposed to and then you grew an interest in? Where did it come from?
So it was, like I said, so at the start, I was spending, all the hours that God sent me on the range trying to become a player. And but on the flip side of that, I always enjoyed helping other players play better as well. So the people who I would teach. And then I got approached by Callaway, and they asked me to come and set up their performance centre or run their performance centre up in Leatherhead in Chessington. And that's where I first started to be exposed to the equipment side of things. Right. Well, actually, interestingly, it was just before that, because my coach at the time, the head pro at the club I was working at, he said something to me. I always remember this. He said, because I was working hard to become a pro at that time, so I was still a handicapped player. And he said, Rhys, you know what? You need to change your clubs. He said, because I was using blades at the time, because I was like a Faldo follower. So whatever he played, I played. So it's Mizuno blades, TP19s. And you probably recognise those, Sam. And he then said to me, he said, I think you need more offset. So offset was like, I didn't really know what offset was at the time. But he said, I think you need it to help you square the face up at a dress, because you tend to leave the face open. And I was really cheesed off, because I thought, it's all down to me. It's not clubs, it's not equipment. But then I looked into it and I thought, oh, okay, right. So I understand. I don't agree with him. I don't need offset, but I understand what he's saying. And it was shortly after that, Callaway were looking for someone to work in their performance centre, becomes the performance centre supervisor.
Right.
And it's who you know a lot of the time, isn't it? So Peter Harrison asked the head pro at my club if he knew anyone, and he put my name forward. So I then went and had the interviews, and then suddenly I was in it. I was exposed to it, and worked my way up through the company and got all that great experience.
But I'm presuming it's obviously must be a passion and an interest of yours for you to spend that many years working, certainly at that level, developing that knowledge as well, and all the insight that you're required to operate at that level. I mean, I'm presuming it's a big passion of yours, the custom fit side.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the equipment. So my passion is actually helping golfers play better, and equipment is such an important part of that. So, and the approach that I take, having started my own company about 5 years ago, Eclipse Golf, is actually its performance. It's the results of the player that matters. And how can I? So you've got various elements of the jigsaw, haven't you? You've got equipment is one. You've got short game. You've got putting. You've got technique, you've got physicality, you've got the mental side of it, you've got the psychological side of things. All these things are elements that you will address at some point to try and improve and help your game. Now, equipment, in my opinion, is something that is one of those elements. It's very important, but it's not the only thing. But I do think that it's probably one of the first things, if not the first thing, that someone should address, even if they are a beginner. Because if you know as well as I do, Sam, when you're coaching, if someone's using something that's not appropriate, at least, bit too long, bit too heavy, bit too thick grips, bit too upright, whatever it might be, your job's a lot harder, isn't it? So I know we get questions a lot of the time about, I've got to wait till I get it all the time. I'm just working on my swing, and when I've got my swing perfect, I'll come and see you, to get your equipment sorted out. I say, no, come and see me now. Yeah. I'm a pro. I know how to coach. I'm not going to coach you. I know what your coach is working on, and I'm going to factor that in. But you've got to have something that complements where you are now, and also complements what you're trying to do. So knowing a player's goals is really, really important as well. So sorry, your question was, has it been a passion of mine? So I've specialised in an area which is one area of the bigger picture of helping someone improve.
Okay. Well, what we're going to do is golfing fans. Over the past week or so, I've asked you to send in a couple of questions if you've had any. We've had a few questions come in. Rhys and I have also talked about some questions that we think would be really good, because as we've said with all these Facebook Live sessions, what we want to do with these Facebook Live sessions is go back to the ABCs, is give you the information that you need to know without getting too complicated, without getting all into jargon, whatever jargon that might be, but actually for us to help us develop a baseline knowledge of key areas. So this is where the questions are. It was great that the questions you sent in actually covered some of these areas. So what Rhys and I are going to do is we're going to work our way through some of these questions. I have shared them with Rhys before, so hopefully there's going to be no surprises, Rhys, when I fire some of these up. So let's get.
Oh no, don't say that. It should sound like it's on the wing, because then then if I get it wrong, I can say, well, I only just heard that question.
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll edit that and we'll say Rhys has never seen these questions before.
Perfect.
Yeah, so I'm sure he's going to be able to answer them perfectly and demonstrate expertise and the ability to not to wing it, but to have all that knowledge at fingertips. So so let's get straight into it. Question one. So question one: what is custom fitting, and what does it mean to be custom fit?
Yeah, it's it's a funny old question, that, because it's like it's been around a long time. When I first started, it was about 1999, 2000, and that's when it started to have some structure around it. Before that, it's nothing new, right? Players right from hickory sticks and all the old clubs that you can look at in the history museums at St Andrews and so forth. They were always doing stuff. They were roughing up the ball, to make it go further, or they found things out by accident, and the equipment in many ways dictated how they swung as well. Hickory stick, you can't swing a hickory or hickory shafted golf club in the same way that you would a steel shaft, which is why swings have developed, or partly why the way swings have developed. But primarily, custom fitting is a service designed to help the golfer choose the right equipment for her game, and that means both in terms of specifications, so things like how long should the club be, what should the balance be, what should the swing weight be, how thick should the grip be, what type of grip should you have, should it be tactile, should it be harder, firmer, all that side of things, should the club be upright or flat in terms of the angle, how the club sits at. So these are all things that are specifications: shaft, length, torque, weight, kick point. All these things are specifications that you can modify to make it be more appropriate for you. So primarily, without going into too much detail, that is what the custom fit service is. It's not just specifications, though. It's also which clubs do you choose. There's a plethora of golf clubs in the market. So, for example, if you need, if you're not hitting your long iron so well, let's say it's a 4-iron. Well, an equivalent to a 4-iron could be a 4 hybrid, or it could be a 9 wood. All those clubs are actually designed to go a similar sort of distance, but they'll get there in a different way, and actually they'll be easier or harder to hit for that particular player, depending on that player, their characteristics and all those sort of things. So that is what custom fit is. What was the second part of that question? What does it mean to be custom fit? Is that what it was?
Yeah, I'll pop it back up. And what does it mean to be custom fit? Yeah.
What does it mean to be custom fit? So if you are going to get custom fit, your expectation should be that you could walk away with all the information you need to make a really effective, cost-effective purchase. Not just cost-effective, but what I'm saying is what you buy is going to be effective for your game and complement what you do now, and hopefully complement what you do in the future as well. That's a slightly different skill set, but yes, I think that hopefully answers the question.
All right, smashing. Question 2 that got sent in, I'll read the question out. What happens during a custom fit? Now, I know from my own personal experience, this is something that we get asked relatively frequently, because we know that custom fit is becoming more popular, but people still go, what actually happens during a custom fit? So I think it's a great question to go through. What happens during a custom fit?
Brilliant question, because there's no set procedure that happens, maybe loosely, but what happens during a fitting? So depends on where you go.
Yeah.
And it depends on the knowledge and the skill set of the fitter. All right, and that's to say that if you've got someone who's just come out the PGA assistant pro, they won't have as much experience as a PGA pro who's been doing it for 20 years, right?
Yes.
So there's that to be taken into consideration, and what is the motivation of the fitter? Okay, so I would define that there are 2 different types of custom fit. One I would call a retail fitting, and one I would call a performance fitting. And the difference is in the approach. Now, if someone's motivated, they're incentivized, let's say they're working behind the till at the shop, they go out, they do their custom fits, they come back in. Their motivation is actually, and their commission is, if they sell a set of golf clubs, they get commission on it. So that's a retail-based fit. Performance fitting is very much focused on the results of the player, and you work your way backwards. So you're not, the sale itself is not even important. It's actually giving the player the right information. But generally speaking, you would expect during a custom fit, there should be a lot of discussion, and actually there should be a lot of pre-discussion. The fitter should know quite a lot about you before you even walk through the door, and they should have prepared for you. So there should be certain clubs ready, or little things that are done just to make it a smooth, efficient, and really enjoyable experience. So lots of discussion. There'll also be the fitter should take lots of measurements. They should take height measurement. They should take wrist to floor or something similar. They should take hand measurements in terms of the full length of the hand and the longest finger to understand, and also take notice of things like thickness of hand, and also take notice of things like how tightly someone grips, whether they have any injuries, all those sort of things. If they've got a little bit of arthritis, that can affect the prescription, the recommendation of what that player ends up with.
Yeah.
So some static measurements, let's call it that part of the fitting is static measurements. Then you'll start to go into a situation where you start to analyze or assess the performance of the player's current clubs, if they have them. If they don't have them, then you go straight into new clubs. But you assess what they've got. You take lots of measurements, you take length, you take swing weight, you take lie, and you understand what they've been using. Because if you've been using a certain club for a little while, then you will have developed a way of playing in order to accommodate those clubs. So if they're not quite right for you, if they're a bit upright or a bit long, you will swing in a certain way that makes them work. All right, you won't even realize that. So there's assessment of their current equipment. Then you start to say, okay, well, look, here's what's happening. Here's what I think the sort of features that we need. And you might need, let's say, for example, you're a little bit steep into the ball. You might need a certain width of sole, either wider or thinner. Your misses might be more towards the heel than towards the toe. So I'm starting to take those things into consideration when I'm deciding what is the head model going to be. Then I'm thinking about the shaft. So I'm thinking, what sort of shaft should I start with here? Should I start with a graphite shaft, steel shaft? What length? Roughly what weight? What sort of characteristics should that shaft have? Should it be a low kick point to hit it higher? So I'm looking at the player's performance in terms of how the ball's flying and thinking, what can I do to help this player make better center contact, hit it a bit higher, hit it a bit lower, hit it straighter, hit it longer. So you're basically putting a lot of things that you can change as a fitter into the melting pot, and that's what you do in this stage. It's kind of dynamic. So you're watching them hit, you're considering how they're swinging, you're considering their goals. So what are they trying, what do they want to get out of this session, and also what do they want to get out of it long term? And that's one of the things that goes into the melting pot in order to get the best results.
And I can imagine, do you have a situation sometimes where you have to temper people's aspirations or goals? What's realistic? Especially perhaps if people are having working on their driver with you, trying to get some more distance. Do you ever have a situation where you have to say, look, your swing speed needs to be at a certain place to be able to hit it the distance you want to hit it? Do you ever find there's a conflict can arise there between what they want and what they can realistically achieve?
Yeah, actually, that's a really good question, because there's an expectation which I think is created by the brand's marketing. That if I get this club, I'm going to hit it 20 yards further, and I'm going to hit it straight, and I'm going to hit it more accurately. And that is a dangerous thing, because actually technology is great, but technology is one aspect. Like fitting itself is one aspect in the whole area of things that you can change to improve your golf. Technology within the club itself is one aspect of the fitting that is part of it. So yes, new technology, thinner faces, whatever it might be, might help the ball travel a little bit quicker and therefore go a little bit further. But if a player walks in and they think, look, I just want 20 extra yards, I'm thinking, just? that's a lot of distance, And actually, if you've got 3, 4, 5, 6 more yards, actually that's a really good result. And to your point, there is a limit. If you swing it at 90 miles an hour, there's a limit to how far you can hit it. Okay, so physically, what is the optimum you can get? So and you can have that discussion. So yes, you have to manage expectations sometimes, and I particularly find with, maybe slower swingers, maybe the slightly older generation, and there's not much extra left. So what can you do to help them? So you do everything you possibly can, but it might not be 20 yards. It might be 4, 5, 6 yards, but actually that can make the difference. That might help you catch the downslope on the fairway. Hit it a little bit further, and actually it all starts. And if you give them, the biggest thing you can give as a fitter is give that player confidence in the equipment they've got is absolutely right for them. So
At this point, golfing fans, I want you to press the like button if you've had a really great experience before from a fitting perspective, and then I want you to comment and tell us about what made that fitting experience so great. And also, if you've had what you would perceive to you to be a poor experience, comment as well and tell us what that looked like, and tell us what happened during that fitting session that made you feel you had a bad session. Right, Rhys, let's march on. Great answers so far.
Well, let me just, Sam, just let me just because what happens? Oh no, what was the question? Hang on.
The question was
what happens during a custom fit? So what happens during? Once you've done a dynamic element, you are then assessing, and you're bringing it all together, and at the end of that process, you should be able to get specifications that you can take away with you, in order to get, and it makes sense. If it's a good session, I would say a good session is if you walk away and you really understand what's happened and why you've been given the specification. That means the fitter has taken you along, they've explained it as they go, and it's very, very clear. And also they've considered all aspects, because the deeper you look, that's why, if you have a fitting that's quick, like 30 minutes, if you do a set of irons, for example, I would say actually you need to probably allow at least an hour and a half, maybe a couple of hours, because there's a lot to go through. And actually, you need to bring the player along with you, because if you do stuff and it's all smoke and mirrors, it's like, crikey, well, that sounds great, but I haven't got a clue what's happened. The confidence you've got in the clubs isn't going to be quite where it needs to be. So sorry, just to read.
No, that's brilliant. The concept of bringing the player, almost, I suppose, in the same way that we do with the coaching session, isn't it? But bringing that player along on the journey with you. That's really interesting. So golfing fans, let us know your thoughts on that. Rhys, next question. What are the benefits of being custom fit?
So obviously it's part of that whole golf improvement cycle. So one of the analogies I will use is like the golf clubs. If their work is a little bit like in a football match, like a good referee, you shouldn't be thinking about your golf clubs. They should just fit. They should fit like a glove. So and I think a good golf shot starts well before you actually hit the golf shot. It could be preparation mentally and stuff. But if you're looking at the golf clubs in your bag and you love the way they look, that's a good start. As you pick them out and it feels right in your hand, the balance feels right, the grip size feels right, everything just feels good. You're trying to line up those dominoes to then set that domino effect off, so you can hit a really, really good golf shot. So the ultimate benefit is the confidence you have in your golf clubs and the satisfaction you have in hitting the shots. You get what you need from them, and they both inspire you, complement what you're doing, and allow you to improve, especially for someone who's working at the game, taking lessons and practicing and stuff like that, and you've got aspirations. The golf club should be with you every step of the way. So I think that's the main thing. The actual, it always results, is it further, straighter, more accurate? I always say golfers I call them CAD golfers. They only want three things. They only want consistency, accuracy, and distance. That's it. That's all they want, isn't it?
That's all they want.
It's not much to ask, is it?
That's all we need to give them.
So that's kind of the goal. Obviously, you want to give them all those things, but ultimately, you want to walk away and they just feel like those gloves fit them like a glove, and they complement everything they do. So
So based on that, why wouldn't somebody want to get? This isn't a question, but it's rhetorical, really. But why wouldn't somebody want to get fit if they are the outcomes? If CAD was an outcome or is an outcome, and we feel more confident and we feel great at setup, hit better shots, why wouldn't we want to do it?
Why wouldn't you? Exactly. And really, there isn't a downside. There isn't a downside, because actually most, the custom fitting, clubs that have been custom fit, the clubs themselves, unless you've got some sort of aftermarket shaft in there, or, sometimes there are or up charges applied to the components that you're using, but a lot of the time there isn't. So actually going through the process doesn't have to make the clubs more expensive. Yeah, at times it can, if that's the right thing to do, but a lot of the time it isn't. So people shouldn't be thinking, oh, number one, they shouldn't be thinking, oh, I'm not good enough yet, because number one, if you're ready to pick up a golf club and swing and hit, you're good enough. All right, so that's one thing. Well, that's probably the main thing, actually. If you're playing golf, this is absolutely the right thing to be doing.
Yeah, that's interesting, because we know that one of the biggest barriers to coaching, all the research would indicate, is people's perception that I'm not good enough for coaching. When we look at the research, that's the number one barrier. Well, I'm not good enough for coaching. Coaching is this sort of activity which only good players do. And it's interesting. I wonder if custom fit, as you've alluded to there, maybe has that same aura.
It's definitely, there's a high percentage. Surveys of that question have been, or barriers to custom fit, if you like, and not getting custom fit have been that I'm not good enough yet, my swing is not good enough yet. And actually, I've got to say, from my approach, obviously you might think, oh, well, he does fitting, so he's going to say that. But if you take it from the point of view that my motivation is to help you improve your golf, and I'm saying, well, actually, the first thing you should get checked, not buy, you don't have to go about buy equipment, but actually it should be get it checked, make sure that what you're using, even if you're just using a 7-iron or whatever club it might be, make sure that it's appropriate for you at the very, very least. Then, as you start to get towards the more elite player, the better player perhaps, you might go into more detail, more specifics that fine tune it even further.
So a question off the cuff, really. How often, roughly on average, sort of loosely, do these sort of guys and girls on the European tour, etc., how often do they have their equipment checked, make sure that it's in the right place for them at that time?
So when I was working on tour, sort of 2.5, 3 years, you'd see the player pretty much every week. Yep. So you might only have 5 minutes to work with the player at any event. So you have to be quick and get it right very, very quickly. But so with regards to, I'd break it down into woods, which were, these days you can adjust your woods, in terms of the neck, the shaft settings that that go into the head. You can adjust those, and I would say pretty much every event I went to, unless a player's bang on form and is trying to qualify for the Open and doesn't want to touch anything, normally they'd run away from you if they saw you on the range, because they don't want to have anything done to their equipment. But the majority of the time, they are tweaking all the time, especially with the woods. With the irons, it's a little bit different. They do have things checked. They'll come in and we'll have their lofts and lies checked to make sure things haven't moved, because clubs can move during the course of the season. They'll get their clubs re-gripped. So irons are kind of done at the start of the season when new product comes out. We dial them in, and then we pretty much leave them alone, apart from an event-to-event check. But you're not doing too much unless they're really, really struggling. With woods, you're changing things all the time, and also sometimes changing equipment. Choices of club like hybrids or utilities, depending on the course, whether it's at altitude or sea level or weather conditions, that sort of thing.
I mean, that's fascinating, because they are individuals who are after extremely high levels of performance, but if those individuals are tinkering and checking all the time, the average club golfer should be certainly checking their equipment at least once a year. And if you haven't been custom fit, go and get custom fit, because the best players in the world are doing it. So if they're doing it, we need to do it as well, right?
And actually, what you just said there is a really important distinction. Custom fit doesn't have to mean buying golf clubs. So if you come to see us, right, for example, it's about checking your equipment. That might result in a recommendation that means you buy clubs. And a lot of people come to us because they want to buy new clubs, and you make sure you get it right for them. But the service is also to make sure things are working and whether you need to adjust anything. But believe you me, the tour players, if they could, if you could give them something that suddenly helps them hit it straighter, longer, further, more accurate, more consistently, they would bite your arm off, exactly as we would, exactly as a high handicapper would, So
golfing fans, again, let us know who of you out there, not necessarily has been custom fit, but who out there has loft and lies even checked per year, or likes to tinker with different setups. Let us know your thoughts on that, guys.
I'll tell you one that's overlooked as well, Sam. Is grip. Grip is very often overlooked during a fitting process. It's normally just, and that's the grip you get. The size, the texture, of the grip is hugely important. It's, you know, it is the only part of the club you grip, that you hold on to, and the sensation you get. And if you're somebody, let's say, for example, who, you know, makes the backswing and loads the shaft very heavily, if you've got a grip that's too torquey, that will affect your confidence. It will affect your ability to control, you know, the club itself, you know, and therefore you might need something with less torque, and vice versa. Somebody who swings a bit more slowly with a bit more rhythm, you know, less tension in the shaft as it comes down, something with a bit more feedback is actually what you're after. So really, really important. And certainly thickness, you know, that's massive as well. If you get it, if you're gripping too tight, you're creating tension, you know, and that has that domino effect of, you know, leading to a poor shot, because you're just not starting in the right place. If I give you a grip that removes some of the tension, you're in a really good place to start in a better, start right.
That's fascinating insight. That is the sort of information that's a little nugget, I think, right there. Something that, let's face it, 99% of golfers will overlook in the grip, but wow, what a difference it can make. That is a nugget, golfing fans. Absolutely brilliant. Okay, next question. Let's get it up. How much does custom fit actually cost?
Yeah, good one. So in terms, like I said already, that a custom fit doesn't need to mean the clubs are going to cost more. It can do, because you might be recommended an aftermarket shaft or an aftermarket grip, and these things pop it up, especially if you go to see a specialist, you know, specialist custom fitter. They will often have access to the aftermarket shafts, and it's part of their service. They go into a bit more detail. So be wary of that. But in terms of the custom fit service itself, you can go to somewhere and get it, be charged maybe £25 and get that money back against the purchase. That's quite common. And I would actually say that approach is not wrong, but I would call that approach a more of a retail focused fitting approach. It's the goal for the fitter, the facilities to get the sale, and then and that's kind of where it stops. There's no follow up. So you could go. So for example, if you booked with us, for example, from a fitting point of view, we charge for our time, and we'll try and get you to be booking probably a good couple of hours, maybe more, because our interest is in helping you get better results. And we know we need time to do that. And it's interesting because when I was working with the tour players, I would have minutes, and I'd, you know, be working with one player here, and I know that, you know, whoever it is down, you know, whoever it is down there, it doesn't matter what the name is, looking down there, you think, I can see a player, he's not hitting it great. He's going to be off the range in a minute because I know his routine. So you're working with one player and you keep an eye on the other and think, right, in your mind, you're fitting him. That's not what you do with, you know, a club golfer, because the thing with a pro is they're not paying for their golf clubs, and you're going to see in the next week, so you get another go if you don't quite get it right. So that's a very different approach, but it does help you hone the ability to get to the right answer quickly and effectively. But with a club golfer, they're spending hard-earned money. They're not come to you to buy golf clubs. They come to you to play better golf in some way, or to get towards whatever their goal might be. And that's what drives you. So I need to spend a couple of hours with you, but I can't afford to spend a couple of hours with you. Yeah, so I'm going to charge for my time. There's no obligation to buy at the end of that. My intent is to give you the best information, you know, to actually go out and make some really good decisions. So it can cost, let's say if you spent a couple of hours with me, you might spend 150 quid on the session, or you can go somewhere else and get it for free. Yeah. The approaches are different. There's no right or wrong, but that's the spectrum that you're working with a custom fit.
Okay. I mean, I would say that the cost of not being fit is probably greater than the cost of actually being fit, if that makes sense. Because if we're not, and the equipment is wrong, and we're after trying to play better golf, the cost therefore of not being fit is quite great. I would encourage everybody to go and be fit.
Absolutely. And even because the thing is, if you've got clubs that you've just bought or whatever, things can be, it might be perfect. That's the ideal scenario. Or you might just need to make a little change. It might be just adjust the lines, or it might be just, you know, actually the grips aren't quite right, or actually a bit long, so let's cut them down a little bit, or the balance is a little bit quite off, so let's change that. You know, there's lots of things you can do. You don't have to go and buy new golf clubs. You know, the goal is to get better results, isn't it?
Brilliant. Right. Now, I think this is a really fascinating question. I can't wait for your response on this. So, should players get fit before or after lessons? So, before starting the coaching process, if you will, should they get fit before or after?
So, they should have their equipment considered right at the very start. Now, the problem we do have in our industry, Sam, is that a lot of coaches are specialist coaches, and I'd say coaches coach, but they don't often fit. Yeah, and I think they should do, and I think that's something I'm trying to help. Some part of my business is to train other, my peers and my colleagues, in helping that up that service. But so like I said at the start, really, I think equipment should come right at the very start. It's not about buying clubs; it's just making sure at least what you're practicing with, if you're just beginning, that is appropriate. And I'm always getting it. Oh, I'm going to come and see you, Rhys. I'm just working on my swing a little bit. Just make sure I just need to just work on this bit now. Then I'll come and see you. And then 3 months later, I'm going to come and see you. I'm going to come and see you. I say, look, just come and see me for God's sake. Because I know what you're working on. I know what you're trying to do. I know what your coach is trying to get you to do. And I also work with their coaches as well. So it's like, some often get the coaches referring people towards me, say, have a look at it. But, I know he's trying to get you a bit more on the inside, or I know he's trying to stop you from being quite so steep. Yeah, I'm taking all that into consideration. You do not have to have a perfect swing, because I tell you what, you'll be waiting a long time.
Who has that?
Because you've seen a lot of these social media posts recently that show all the different types of backswing that the top players have. They're all so different. So what's perfect? There isn't a perfect. There might be you'll have moments of perfection when things are just. Like Greg Norman in '93 Open at Royal St George's, he was in awe of himself. You remember that? So everything was just perfect at that time, but it'll quickly go off. So what you really want to do is have clubs that, yes, accommodate what you're doing, what you're working towards, and really a lot of the time I'm always trying to improve the good shots, but I'm actually more importantly trying to make sure the bad shots are much closer to the good shots.
Yes.
Yeah. So if I can make that means you can play badly and score well. And actually, that's what a lot of the good players do really well.
That's one of the secrets, isn't it? I think that's one of the secrets to great golf. All the best players, their bad shots aren't that bad.
No, absolutely. And that's part of it. It's actually going around and not having a good game and actually walking away with a decent score on your card.
Right. Last question. And I think this is a cracker. It is, what makes a great custom fit? So I did think about putting up what makes an awful custom fit. We don't want to focus on that. Tell us about what to you makes a great custom fit.
So it's the approach. So the approach, if you've got a fitter who is completely motivated, actually. So when I work with people, I say, look, what you've got to start to do is change your drive, your motivation, your goal to getting a great review. So if their goal is to get a great review, what do you do to get a great review? Well, you prepare properly. Yeah. So you ask a lot of good questions, even, at the booking point, at the point of booking, you establish what they want, what they need. So all that preparation is absolutely key. And then you're not rushing. Okay. You mustn't be rushed. And as a player coming in, you need to understand what's going on. Yeah. You understand what decisions are being made, why you're making them. Because actually a fitting should be a really educational process. Yeah. What you'll often find is so it's all about it's the best result, not just better, because you'll go to a fitting and normally you'll have a launch monitor there and you'll get a few clubs and you'll make a few changes and actually the shots start to go a little bit longer. Job done, right? Let's go and place the order. No, hang on a minute. It's not quite. I think I can get more out of this. So if the fitter has that motivation, you're in really good hands. And so it shouldn't be rushed. It should take a little bit of time. Certain equipment should be used. So during a fitting process, there's a lot of investigation going on. That's part of the whole process. So to investigate properly, you have to have certain equipment. So obviously you've got your launch monitor. That's a prerequisite these days, really, to give you the dynamics and performance of the actual ball flight and the club delivery. But also you need to understand, you have to understand what the player has got in their hands. So if he starts swinging, let's say the player comes in and they are, they start warming up with their own clubs. Well, what's in their hands? How long is it? What size is the grip? What's the swing weight? What's the lie angle? I can't tell any of that just by looking at them. Might have some idea, a little bit. You get used to watching players. But so what do I have to do? I have to take that club and I'm going to go measure the swing weight, measure the frequency, measure the length and the lie and the lofts. So when I see a shot going a bit too high, a bit too low, or a bit to the right, I think, hang on a minute, that might be the club. But if But how am I meant to know if it's the club or the player if I don't know what is in his hand? So if you don't measure stuff beforehand and during, that's really important. So I think it's attention to detail. It's using the right equipment so and if possible, a fitter should ideally change one thing at a time. That's what makes a great fit, because then you can see the impact of what you've just changed, and you can make a better decision. And then, so that's kind of an overview of what makes a great fit during the actual session. But actually, what makes a great fit in terms of the overall result is the follow-up as well. So what happens immediately after sessions? You should be walking away on cloud 9 after that fit.
Yes.
I don't think you should be walking straight to the till. I think you should be getting the information sent to you so you can digest it, take some time, have a look at it. Unless you're in a rush, it's absolutely fine. But then also, what happens? Let's say you order the clubs. Well, the next thing that should happen is when the clubs come in, the facility, the fitter, should check those clubs, because there are industry tolerances. So clubs get built. If I've ordered you one flat, it could come through 1 degree upright, and believe you me, it happens. So every set that comes through that I've fitted has been purchased through me, comes in, and it's 45 minutes worth of work, if it's a full set of irons, to check everything. And then I know that, because then what I'm thinking is, when this player takes his clubs away, if there's something wrong, I need to know that what they've got in their hands is what I gave them. If I don't, I've got to bring them all the way back in again, and it's a bad experience for them. So there's that side of things, and then it's actually following up. So if I'm interested in that player's results, well, you're going to hear from me in a couple of weeks after you've had the clubs, just asking you how the club's going. Just want to know how the club's going. That's it, nothing more. That completes the circle, because at that point you say, hopefully, everything's great, I'm really happy, thanks so much. And that also ends up, that's a great review for you that you can utilize in your marketing. But for the golfer, it's like, he's interested. Actually, look, the irons are great, I'm really happy, but you know what, I'm not quite getting on with a 3-wood. No problem. Come back in, let's have a look, and let's see if we've got it right, or if we need to make any adjustments and so forth, because there's definitely a dilemma out there that players will think that it's always them, it's their fault. It's not the clubs, it's me. So actually, no, hang on, we'll stand by what we've given you. Let's check it. If you're not quite happy with it, let's just see if if we can do anything better. That's what makes a great fit. It's the prep before the session. It's everything you do during the session, and then it's what you do afterwards to actually make sure the final result is exactly what the golfer wanted, and they're absolutely delighted with what they've got. I think
brilliant.
That's the answer.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's fantastic. Rhys, that concludes our Facebook Live session and our interview. Thank you for going through those questions. Thank you for joining us. Just so the viewers know, if they want to get in touch with you or in touch with Eclipse Golf to see what you guys do, what's the easiest way to go about that?
So probably the easiest way is just visit the website. So it's www.eclipse-golf.co.uk. You can go on there, you can see what we do. If you wanted to make a booking, or if you want to have a free call, you can just click on a button and just book a free call, just to chat about your equipment, which has been really popular, actually. People just like to, it's never, I say it's 15 minutes, just to try and curtail it, it's never 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But anyway, so there's that option. And there's, and you can also book a session online, get it all, find your time and get that sorted out. So that's a good way of doing it. I've also got like a private Facebook group as well. So normally though, I invite people to that once they've had a fitting, because I'm trying to help them on their journey.
Yeah.
So, but probably the Facebook element is, the website element is probably the best way of doing it.
Okay.
Got all the contact details there. And I think, one of the things we spoke about as well was I'm putting a PDF together.
Yes.
Which is all the things, I actually have to nail down the title, but it's going to be all the things that be like a checklist of things that you check before you decide where to go. All right. And that's not a pitch for me. That's actually to say, look, you might be up in Manchester. Well, who should you go and see? Yeah. So I'm going to give you the things that you should check to make sure you're going to go to see someone who's ticks all the boxes.
That's brilliant. And Golfin fans, if you like the post, we will get that PDF sent out to you as well once Rhys has come up with his title. Looking forward to that title.
The only thing is, it's a 7-point checklist, but I'm not sure it's 7. Is it 6? Is it 8? Things I'm not sure yet. So I'll figure that out. Might come up with a few more.
And it was eclipse-golf.com.
Yes, correct. Yeah, www.eclipse-golf.co.uk. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Not .com, .co.uk.
Eclipse-golf.co.uk. Perfect. Rhys, thank you again for joining us this evening. Really appreciated. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your sharing your expertise and your thoughts.
You're really welcome. Thanks for the invite, Sam, and well done for bringing all this good stuff to your audience. I hope it's helpful.
I'm sure it will be. Thanks, Rhys.
You're welcome.
So there you have it, golfing fans. Rhys Atkinson from Eclipse Golf. I thought that interview was absolutely fantastic. Lots of insightful, valuable information. A couple of key takeaway points from me. If you've never been custom fit before, I would really recommend you go and give it a go. As Rhys mentioned, it might not be for the outcome of purchasing a new set of clubs, but I think it would be really valuable for each of you to know whether the equipment you're currently using is optimal, and if it's not, then to understand what options you've got to get it to optimal. And secondly, if you have previously been custom fit, and it might be a few years ago, go back and get your equipment checked to find out if it is still optimal. And again, then you can explore some options. Don't forget, whether you're watching tonight, this live broadcast, or the rebroadcast, which will go out straight away, to like this post, and everybody who likes, we will send you Rhys's PDF with his 7 tips, pointers when going out looking for a custom fitter. Thank you for all the questions that have come in. We've received quite a few DMs this evening and comments as well. Obviously I couldn't send them to Rhys, but I will send them on to Rhys, and he said that he will of course answer them and come back to me, and I will then share those answers with you all. If you would like some more information about golfing, please follow the link in our bio and sign up for the golfing emails. We don't bombard your inboxes or anything like that. We usually send out an email every couple of weeks, but when we do, we send out valuable quality information, coaching tips, news updates, and of course lots of information about upcoming Facebook live sessions. And over the next few weeks we have Facebook live sessions focusing on strength and conditioning and nutrition. I've spent time with both of the speakers. They are absolutely fantastic. You don't want to miss these sessions. And as I've mentioned in a couple of previous videos on Instagram, Facebook, etc., there's a couple of really cracking stories that they're going to discuss and talk about as well, so one not to miss. If you're playing golf this weekend, I hope you play great. We will put a post out tomorrow night asking how you've all got on. Please share the good, the bad, the ugly. You know we like to know about it. Thank you all for joining us this evening. Of course, thank you to Rhys Atkinson at Eclipse Golf. Eclipse-golf.co.uk is his website if you want to find out a bit more about what he does and his company. Stay safe, everyone. Thanks for watching, and happy golfing.